Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandham at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.
The Football by Numbers bonus edition of the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch is back, and today we cover jersey number 41 and give you a top 10 greatest NFL players that ever wore that jersey, and it's all coming up in just a moment. This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history on a day-to-day basis. This is your host, Darren Hayes, and we're podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time. So with Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff supplying us with the tunes, let's go no huddle through today's football history headlines.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com, and welcome to a bonus edition, Football by Numbers, the greatest jersey numbers in the NFL, the players that wore number 41. It's just a great time to be alive, great time to talk about some football history, and great time to get it back into this Football by Numbers series. And we just want to have a programming note. Don't check your dials. You did not miss anything. We have skipped over the number 40 because we have a special guest who just had some scheduling conflicts at this time. We will end up recording that and playing it at a future date when that guest is available, because we really want you to hear them tell that story. But we'll continue the football numbers. We're just skipping over 40 for a little bit. We will catch up on it and make sure we have that just as soon as we possibly can. But number 41 is our focus today, and I'm on a solo mission today on these number 41s, but we have three players from the Pro Football Hall of Fame that wore the number 41, and remarkable enough, they all have a last name that starts with H. And the guy that's going to read these to you, his last name starts with an H too, and they are Arnie Erber, Cal Hubbard, and Clark Kinkel, three great Pro Football Hall of Famers in that Canton Museum. And the first one we're going to talk about is Clark Kinkel. You know, he was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1972. He was a back for the Green Bay Packers from 1932 to 1941, and he was 5'11", weighed 202 pounds, went to Bucknell College in 1929 to 1931. He was inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame College Football Hall of Fame 1964, was the NFL All-Decades team in the 1930s, and he was on the official NFL All-Pro team that was chosen between 1931 and 1942. He made that 4 different years as an All-Pro. Just a great player. Some statistics from him are just, off the charts. 3 Pro Bowls. Played mostly as a fullback and a linebacker. It's two-way playing system, the single platoon system, as they called it. But in his rushing records, he had 3,860 yards on 1,100 carries, 35 touchdowns running the ball, and his tackling was off the charts. And of course, we do not have a lot of statistics from that era on tackles, but believe me, Clark Kinkel was truly a special player. And speaking of the Green Bay Packers, how about one of his teammates, Arnie Erber, another Hall of Famer that's on this list, wore number 41. Kinkel wore it in, I believe, 1936. 1932 was the year that Erber wore the number 41. Separate years, but they were on the same team. They were teammates for multiple years, as well as our next contestant we're going to talk about here too. But Erber was also a 4-time NFL champ. one Pro Bowl, one All-Pro, but he was that great quarterback, tailback, threw a lot of passes to great wide receiver Don Hutson, made that famous Erber to Hudson connection. Another H, but Hudson, unfortunately for this show, or maybe unfortunately, did not wear the number 41 with the Packers. So we won't be talking to him, but just the other three H's from the Packers from that era. But what a great player. We've talked about Arnie before, and I think Arnie, along with Clark Kinkel, they are going to go number 1 and 2 on our list into these greatest players that wore the number 41. And Cal Hubbard is right there with them, another teammate. And Hubbard wore number 41. He did not wear it with the Packers, even though he was a Packers teammate from 29 to 35. But his first 2 years were as a New York Giant, and that's where he wore the number 41, 1927, 1928, with those New York Giants. And altogether, he was a 4-time All-Pro, 4-time NFL champ, also a Hall of Famer. Great tackle and defensive end guard. Again, not a lot of statistics for these three gentlemen, but they are truly great Hall of Famers, great number 41s. That's why they are on our list of the first three on our list for the greatest number 41s in NFL history. Now let's talk about some gentlemen that are not quite yet in the Hall of Fame yet, and maybe they'll get there someday. We never say never, but they're not in the Hall of Fame at the time of this recording. And the first one is Charlie Waters, a great defensive back. He was born in 1948, played with the Dallas Cowboys from 1970 all the way to 1981, wore the number 41 his entire career with those Cowboys and in the NFL. Started off as a free safety, played left cornerback for a few years early on, and went back to strong safety. And he had 41 interceptions in his career. 2 of those he took back to the house. 2-time Super Bowl champ, 3 times in the Pro Bowl. Charlie Waters is another great player, and I think we are going to put him on our list also because Charlie just had a tremendous career with those 1970s Cowboys of Tom Landry. Big names on that team, but he was a big one, an important piece to that doomsday defense. And another one we want to talk about is Randy Logan, another defensive back. He had 23 interceptions, didn't take any back for touchdowns, but had 293 yards off of those. And he played defensive back for the Philadelphia Eagles his entire career, wore that number 41 all the years, 1973 all the way to 1983, so 11 years with that number 41 on. And just had a great career with the Eagles. He is going to be one of those that's going to be on our borderline that we're going to come back and talk about with Randy Logan. So we will make sure we check him out again. Eugene Robinson, another defensive back, wore 41 for his entire career. 3 Pro Bowls, 1 time as a Super Bowl champ. Seattle Seahawks, he came in 1985, played with that team all the way to 1995, so 11 years with the Seahawks. Then he spent a couple of years in Green Bay, a couple of years with the Falcons, and a final year of 2000 with the Carolina Panthers. 57 interceptions, 762 return yards off of them, 1 touchdown. That's a big number, 57 interceptions. And he was a very good player during his career. And I think he is going to end up taking our 5th spot on our top 10 greatest number 41s in NFL history. Antoine Bethea is our next defensive back that wore the number 41. Wore that for 14 seasons. He came into the league with the Indianapolis Colts in 2006. Played with the team for 8 years. Then went to the San Francisco 49ers for 3 years. Arizona Cardinals for 2 years. Finished up his last season in 2019 with the New York Giants. A great safety. 25 interceptions during his career. 312 return yards. 1-time Super Bowl champ. Took one of those interceptions back for a touchdown, I might add, and played in 3 different Pro Bowl games. Great player, Antoine Bethea. He's going to be another one of our tweeners that we'll come back and take a look at Mr. Bethea because he definitely has a chance here. But Tom Matt is another great player, running back, quarterback, right-handed player. Came out in with the Baltimore Colts in 1961. Played with the team all the way to 1972. Wore the number 41 for all but his rookie year. He wore 27 his rookie year. But all the seasons that really counted and he did some great statistics that he wore that number 41. He had 1,200 rushes for 4,646 yards, 3.9 yards per carry, 45 touchdowns. Another outstanding player, a very talented backfield that he played. His nickname was the Garbage Can, which is interesting enough. But he played on a very good team. Johnny Unitas was on there, and Alamici, and just some great players on those Baltimore Colts teams of the 1960s. We talked quite a bit about that with our friend Upton Bell on our February 25th football history headlines. So make sure you go back and check out that if you want to learn a little bit more about the Baltimore Colts of the 1960s. But I think we're going to definitely put him on, Tom Matt, on our take a look at again list. We'll come back to him later when we're doing our deliberations on there. But Phil Villapiono, great linebacker, most famously of the Oakland Raiders, and spent 9 years with the Raiders, came in 1971, and 9 years there, and then 4 final years with the Buffalo Bills. But if you remember, Villapiono was part of that great immaculate reception play, the most famous play in NFL history, and he was the one who was complaining that as a Raiders, he complains he was clipped on the play or blocked on the back. Maybe they didn't have a block on the back at that era, but he said he would have made that tackle, so the play should have been called back. Franco Harris did not go for the touchdown because it should have been a penalty. That's his claim to fame. But what a great player he was during that. Unfortunately, we don't have any of his tackle statistics. They did not have them at that time, but he did have 11 interceptions as a linebacker, returned 1 for a touchdown, 160 yards of return yards. One-time Super Bowl champ, made it into 4 different Pro Bowls. He was a very good, solid linebacker, real long career there. And I think Mr. Villapiono definitely has a good shot at making our list, but we will come back and talk about him again a little bit later in the program. But so far we have 5 of those spots filled up. Let's take a look at a few more players here. How about cornerback Mike Bass? Came in with the Detroit Lions in 1967 and then went to the Washington Redskins for 7 straight years as their right corner, and he had 30 interceptions, 478 return yards, 3 touchdowns, and wore number 41 for all 7 years with Washington. With Detroit, he wore number 26. But what an outstanding player he was. Not sure if he's going to make this list. Good statistics and everything, but really doesn't have the credentials, didn't have the Pro Bowls and the All-Pros or a championship, but we definitely want to talk about him because he was definitely substantial. Todd Light is another one, another defensive back. Great career. He came out of Notre Dame, was played in a Pro Bowl and was a Super Bowl champ. He came in with the Rams in 1991, played with them for 4 years in L.A., and then in St. Louis, he played with them for another 6 years after that. So a long-time Ram, 10 total seasons with the Rams franchise, final 2 years with the Detroit Lions. And he had 37 interceptions, 462 yards, 4 touchdowns off of those. That puts a pretty good company here, and I think we're going to take a look at Mr. Light again, and possibly could crack our top 10. And Keith Byers is another one we were talking about. He was a great running back, tight end. Came into the league in 1986 with the Philadelphia Eagles and stayed with them for 7 years. Went 4 years with the Miami Dolphins, a couple years with the Patriots, one final year in 1998 with the New York Jets. But what a great career. He had 3,109 yards rushing on 865 carries for a 3.6 yards per carry average, 23 touchdowns on the ground. In receiving yards, this is where he really shined. He had 5,600 yards receiving, 610 receptions, another 31 touchdowns. So that is 54 total touchdowns, and wore that number 41 for the majority of his career, all but 1 year. So that's a good 13 years wearing that number 41. Very impressive numbers by Mr. Byers, and he is another one that we're going to give some good consideration here. We're going to have a tough deliberation here, I believe, as we got to talk about a couple more players here. Terence Newman, he's another player we want to talk about. He came in 2003 with the Dallas Cowboys, played with them for, 9 seasons. That's where he wore number 41 with the Cowboys. 9 seasons was number 41. Then he went 3 years in Cincinnati, wore a different number 23. 3 years with Minnesota, wore the number 23. But 9 years as number 41 as a defensive back. He had 42 interceptions, 3 touchdowns off of those, 363 return yards, made it into 2 Pro Bowls. He was a first round pick, 5th overall in the 2003 NFL Draft. What a great player he was. And I think with numbers like that, Terence Newman is going to probably make it into our thing. But we'll come back and we'll deliberate on him a little bit. Another one we want to check out here. But Roman Harper, another great defensive back. He also played in 2 Pro Bowls, was a one-time Super Bowl champ, where the number 41 his entire career. 2006, he came in as a strong safety for the New Orleans Saints and played there for 9 seasons and 2 final years, 2015, 2016, with the Carolina Panthers. And 2016, he finished up with New Orleans again. He came back with those. Won that Super Bowl with the Saints. He had a great season that year. He had 18 sacks, 641 solo tackles, and just a tremendous player. His interception numbers weren't the top ones that you would think for a DB. He did have 11 interceptions during his career, 2 touchdowns. So those are some good numbers there. I'm going to put him on the list to come back and talk about, but not sure he is as strong as some of our other candidates. But, speaking of New Orleans Saints, how about Alvin Kamara, who's wearing that number 41 lately for the Saints? He has 4 seasons under his belt so far, 2017 through 2020. And what a career this young man has had so far, as he has had 3,340 yards, a 5.0 yards per carry average, 43 touchdowns so far on the ground in his career. And receiving wise, holy cow, he has just got 15 more touchdowns receiving, longest receptions 52 yards, and he's had 409 targets, 326 catches. That is pretty strong for 4 seasons. That'll get you noticed. The 2017 AP Offensive Rookie of the Year, 4 Pro Bowls in 4 years. That is standing real strong. And as a matter of fact, I think Mr. Kamara is going to earn our spot, get number 6 on our board, because that is really very impressive. And, I want to also talk about Leroy Mitchell a little bit. He's another defensive back, had 19 interceptions in his career, 1 taken back for a touchdown. Came in 1967 with the Boston Patriots of the AFL, played there 2 seasons, got hurt in 1969, and then came back strong with the Houston Oilers, and then 3 seasons with the Denver Broncos. Substantial player, 441 his entire time, made 1 Pro Bowl, but probably not going to make our list here. Just some other candidates who are just blowing the doors off of some of these statistics. But another guy that I do want to talk about that had a nice long career, wore the number 41 for a substantial amount of time, was running back Dave Osborne, who came in 1966 with the Minnesota Vikings, played with the Vikings for 11 seasons, 1 final year in 1976 with Green Bay. He had 4,336 yards, 3.7 yards per carry, 29 touchdowns on the ground, and he put up another 7 touchdowns receiving, and just over 1,400 yards through the air. Again, probably not strong enough to make it with the present company that we're talking about, but we really have some stud players that wore that number 41. They just kept coming. Matt Snell is another player we want to talk about. Snell is that infamous New York Jet. Came in with the Jets in 1964 in the AFL. Played with them his entire career, all the way when they went into the NFL in 1972. And he had 4,285 yards on the ground, 24 touchdowns, and receiving, he had 7 more touchdowns, 1,375 yards through the air. Great player, very famous player. Had some great contributions in that Super Bowl III victory with Joe Namath and the Promise. And we talked earlier today on our Football History Headlines program about Weeb Ewbank was his coach with the Jets. Just an outstanding player. but we'll put him under consideration. Not sure that he's gonna make it there, but definitely a great player. I think that probably gives us enough candidates. So far we've chose 6 to our top 10, and that is Eugene Robinson, then our 3 Green Bay Packer Hall of Famers, Clark Kinkel, Arnie Erber, Cal Hubbard, Charlie Waters of the Dallas Cowboys is a spot, and Alvin Kamara. Those are our 6 that are in already, and some ones we really wanted to have some strong consideration on. We said Randy Logan and Antoine Bethea, Tom Matt, Phil Villapiono, Todd Light, Keith Byers, Terence Newman, Roman Harper, and Matt Snell. And I think I'm going to put Terence Newman as one of our top 10. He's going to take our 7th spot in there. And I think Keith Byers is another one. I really liked his career and his numbers. He's going to take our 8th spot. And I think Mr. Villapiono, he was very substantial to those Raiders teams of the 70s. We will put him in our 9th spot. And I think we're going to go with Randy Logan to get our 10th spot. So there you go, folks. We have Eugene Robinson, Clark Kinkel, Arnie Erber, Cal Hubbard, Randy Logan, Charlie Waters, Phil Villapiono, Keith Byers, Terence Newman, and Alvin Kamara, our modern-day player. Only played 4 seasons, but what 4 great seasons they were. Those are your top 10 number 41s in NFL history, according to the Pigskin Dispatch podcast on our Football by Numbers series. If you have any questions or have seen anybody possibly we missed that you think should be on that list or maybe should have been mentioned as a substantial number 41, please email us at pigskindispatch@gmail.com, and on a future episode we will make sure we correct any errors that we may have made, or maybe a better suggestion by you, the fans, because we really count on you for your support, and we appreciate you joining us each and every day and on these special bonus editions. And when we come back next time with the number 42s, we have a guest. We have one of our favorite guests, Joe Ziemba, that great football historian, author, and podcaster himself, really brings some great stories to light of the number 42s, and I think you're really going to enjoy that program. That'll be up in a day or two. Make sure you look for that. Check us out in your podcast player, or go to pigskindispatch.com, and we will have all our podcasts right there for you to check out. So till tomorrow, everybody, have a great gridiron day. Peeking up at the clock, the time's running down. We're going to go into victory formation, take a knee, and let this baby run out. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back tomorrow for the next podcast. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. A special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff, for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
It was just another ordinary day in the offices of the Pittsburgh Guardian newspaper circa 1924. But for Marla Delft, assistant editor, everything was about to change. For she was about to discover the awesome attractiveness of Row 1 brand retro sports paraphernalia items thanks to Orville Mulligan, sports writer.
And there it is.
Wow, Orville, that's really the bee's knees.
Isn't it just? A poster-sized replica of the actual 1909 World Series program cover.
I can see that. But where did you get it? And where'd you get it framed?
I ordered it from the Row 1 website, where over 6,000 items of sports memorabilia from the 1880s to the 1990s are available for reproduction, in multiple sizes and in several different materials, with over a dozen styles of frame to choose from for prints like this.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Delft would love to put up more of these in the office. But I'm equally as sure they're beyond this newspaper's budget.
Not at all, my dear Marla. See for yourself. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com/row1.
sportshistorynetwork.com/row1. Oh my, these are good prices. Oh, and look at this stuff. Oklahoma-Nebraska football, college basketball art, Michael Jordan items.
And so it
Retro
was that
sports
Marla Delft
advertisement
discovered the
classics.
splendiferous magic of Row 1 sports memorabilia, arts, and prints. You can too by visiting sportshistorynetwork.com/row1. That's ROW1 today for access to the full Row 1 catalog of gallery prints and gifts like t-shirts, long-sleeve shirts, telephone cases, coffee mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Act today for 15% discount off all prints with coupon code SHN15 and 20% off all other items with coupon code SHN20 at checkout. And keep your dial locked to the Sports History Network for the exciting chronicles of the 1920 sports world in Orville Mulligan, Sports Writer. Coming soon.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row 1, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings you sports history to life anywhere. The Row 1 gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row 1 shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long-sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row 1 catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row 1 Pictorum Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.